Yeah, let's dance. It's not as cool when there's no fans.
Welcome back to the Red and White Podcast, folks. I'm your host, Evan, here with Will. How are you doing, Will?
Oh, I can't complain. How are you?
I'm good, and that was going to be my exact sentence. How cool is Enter Sandman going to be without anybody in the stadium?
I hope that our guys just like run out during it and try to like steal their thunder.
Yeah, so schedule came out today. We open up with Virginia Tech. I'm sure most people have seen, and my immediate reaction was, I'm just going to talk trash to as many people as possible because we might not play. So let's enjoy this while we can, right?
Oh,
let's just pretend things are going to happen. And I promised to myself before we recorded this that I wouldn't let this get into a COVID podcast because nobody knows if we're going to play. You know, there's so much speculation, right? We talked about this last time, and every time I turn on one of these podcasts, and every other sentence is, well, but we might not play, or well, but the corona is going to get everybody, and I don't want to go that route. I'm sure we're going to bring it up, but that's my disclaimer from the beginning: is going to try to avoid it, try to assume that we're going to play at least something, and operate that way because that conversation has just been beat to death, and I don't want to hear it, and I'm sure most everybody else doesn't want to hear it.
So what you're telling me is this football schedule is a hox?
That's right. So Will's got 4 pages of Corona notes here he wanted to read, and that's why I was cutting them off. Cutting them off from the beginning.
I saw this schedule, and I did the Ric Flair woo like when I saw it, man, because I hated our schedule that we had previously. And while I don't like the potential to go on the road 4 out of the first 6 games, I am so happy that we are playing the teams we are playing. And
yeah,
okay, it's not going to be a COVID podcast, but we already have COVID impact with guys opting out at Virginia Tech. Their best defensive back, Caleb Farley, is not playing right. And what is interesting to me is he cited basically poor COVID practices in place at Virginia Tech,
right.
Which makes me think, oh man, like we could play, and then we could have a bunch of guys a few weeks after that, and then Miami's star defensive end today, Greg Roof. I don't even know how to say his name. Rousseau. I don't know.
Yeah.
Greg Rousseau. He's opting out. And then Clemson's star defensive end Xavier Thomas is going to miss most of the season, battling COVID-19 strep throat. Dabo Swinney says he's just nowhere near where he needs to be to play football.
That's wild. I hadn't heard the Miami news. I had heard and have been reading about Miami's on our schedule and all that stuff, and have seen everybody talking about their defensive line is going to be the next coming of the steel curtain or whatever, So that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. That's news. Yes, it's a platinum, maybe. I don't know. What's soft?
Did you read that? I think you posted it. That Miami ill-informed article about our personnel, but very pro Miami take on the game.
Yeah, so I didn't realize it was the Miami Herald was writing it. So I'm reading it halfway through. I'm like, why are they talking about Miami? Like, where did this come from? I thought it was an interesting analysis of the schemes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the personnel. And that's why I shared it, because I thought that part of it was interesting, even though it took me a little while to realize it was a Miami publication. And that's why they kept bringing up the Hurricanes and how good they're going to be against us. But yeah, so, for for the six first games are on the road, and with no fans in the stadium, I don't think that part of it is going to be the difference maker, right? Teams are always the home field advantage. To me, and I think I might have put this on Twitter or told you or something, I don't know. It's going to be the travel that it's going to have the biggest impact of it. And it's not just the travel, it's the travel under these circumstances, right? You don't know the added stress. You don't know what the processes are going to be. And it's not going to be the same setup. And how is it going to work? Especially when you're taking long trips. Maybe you could do a day trip to Virginia or somewhere back. But, going to these other places where it's farther, Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh. It involves hotels and planes and, just sort of those sort of things, man. It's just how is that going to play out? And the stress of that situation is what makes the road games hard this year, as opposed to all the fans in the stands. I think that's a perspective that people hadn't really talked about. But that's how I think the travel is going to have an impact there.
Yeah. I mean, I do wonder if you are going to see, a lot of every time we went to play BC, right? We always came out flat up there, and constantly players would talk about how there's zero energy at that building, and how it's really hard.
That was under Tom O'Brien though.
But
I think Dorn's been pretty good on the road. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember last year. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, it's going to be very weird. Home field really won't be an advantage, other than, like you said, being rested and not being thrown out of your rhythm big time with odd travel.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to see how, our stadium's going to be allowed to at least pump in noise to try to simulate a crowd. I haven't been watching any the NBA in the bubble, for example. I mean, are they piping in noise, or is it just pure quiet in there?
So I haven't watched as much as the NBA that I've liked, but I have tuned into TJ Warren tearing up the league, and they have some weird setups. They're bringing in crowd noise and music, but they also have these video screens of live feeds of people watching the game, they're in their seats.
Okay.
But it's strange. Yeah, it's weird. So I doubt that the college football is going to have that. It's easier to pull off in the bubble, NBA bubble, but
you'd have to be able
I'd assume they're going to let them put in. Yeah,
which is something
I assume they're going to let them put in noise and stuff, but not during the actual game. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting question, man. There's a lot of things there. I mean, I imagine they'll have some capacity of fans, but you're talking 20%. So,
oh yeah. I mean, maybe it'll just be bands, and I mean, yeah, I guess we won't know for a while. So all we can really do is look at the schedule. So when you look at the schedule, Evan, what's our record?
I hadn't actually done that exercise yet today.
Let's walk through.
I was getting ready to make a joke about UNC operating at 20% capacity, which is normal.
You mean national champions?
Yeah,
I did see this. Right. I was shocked. Georgia Tech, is manning up and playing UCF. I'm guessing that UNC is not.
No. Their out of conference hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay.
Conveniently.
Well, they were supposed to play UCF. They were supposed to play Auburn. It was going to be great because, they had such a high likelihood of starting off the year in a death spiral, actually. So
yeah, it would have been awesome.
Yeah, I think they really benefited from this as well.
Shocker. Everything fucking comes up Carolina, right?
Well, I mean, I think we talked about this before, but this schedule, just before they actually laid out the home and aways or the actual dates, it looked like a schedule to me where they said, hey, NC State, you got your ass whipped last year. We're going to take all the hard teams off your schedule and give you a break. And I almost wonder if that kind of philosophy kind of went through it, where it was like, well, hey, UNC, you're supposed to be pretty good this year, so should we kind of give you an opportunity to make a run? But
they don't get Clemson, so
until the title game,
still get avoided. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we get we get the coastal treatment this year, which is interesting. So I don't know.
If we go 6-6 and are in a threat to win, That's my dream. Is like if you look at all these the coastal teams, and you put up all the records at the end of the year, and if we're like 6-6, 7-5, and they all are, I'm just gonna be like, see, I told you, I knew that side of the conference was a joke.
Yeah.
All right, are
All right.
Are we winning?
I'm gonna go no.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna go yes. I'm going yes just because I'm talking trash.
That's
right.
right.
I'm talking trash, so I gotta go yes. They're not any better. They're going to be a little bit of a mess too. They're hurting. They had a good quarterback, figured it out late last year, but Bud Foster's gone. We've kind of got some inside knowledge there with Charlie Wiles and Brian Mitchell, so I feel pretty good. We'll be all right there.
Yeah.
We got Wake at home. We'll take that. We're 2-0.
Wow.
Going to Pitt. Everybody says they're going to be. Everybody says they're going to be really good, right? Defensively.
Yeah, they're supposed to have a good defense.
We're going to beat Pitt. That's 3-0.
Wow.
UVA doesn't have Bryce Perkins. 4-0.
Holy cow.
Duke sucks. 5-0. Beating Carolina 6-0.
Wow, here we go.
And then Miami 6-0 going to Miami, going with Miami coming to Raleigh.
Well, should we just pencil in our virtual seats to Charlotte at this point?
Right, I would think so. Right, if you can go 6-6 in the Coastal.
I mean, no Greg Rousseau. The French is gone, so I mean, obviously that's a win. I mean, FSU. I mean, more like Flames. You, am I right? And then, I mean, obviously our most challenging game on the schedule, Liberty.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
I think honestly, this schedule it's going to be crazy. It's going to be interesting if it happens. And if it kind of plays out with all these guys kind of dropping out, and if we could actually stay healthy, this is probably the best thing you could ask for as a Dave Doran and those guys, aside from the road starts early.
Yeah, in all seriousness, any of these games could go any way.
Yeah.
If we're a dumpster fire like we were last year, then it's not going to look good. But I got to expect that was more of an anomaly than the mean. And I think we'll have a better chance. People, and maybe this is the fanboy in me, but I think we have a bit more talent than people give us credit for, even though last year didn't display that. I think there's going to be some serious learning curves with the new schemes and such, but I think the talent is there in a lot of positions. And if they get superior coaching, which is why they made all these coaching staff changes, then things should be okay. You should win a lot. You should win more of these toss-ups because I think you do have better talent than quite a few of these teams on this schedule, despite most people not giving you credit for it.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, we get is there a bye between the Wake and the Pitt game?
Yes.
Right? So like you get an early reset. I think, and they might have put that in kind of pretty much for every team, which I think is really smart. It also gives you flexibility, right? If you got
that's why they did it. Yeah, they tried to space them out.
So, but for us, I think as a young team, it's very crucial. You don't really get a tune-up game. You're actually Virginia Tech, I think, is actually probably the worst draw to start off this schedule. I'd be fine with basically not playing Virginia Tech or Miami or FSU, someone that doesn't have a natural, a history of having plenty of talent and just having to work through it a little bit, right? I would have rather had Wake just to start. I mean, even though they're a nightmare for us, an established program, it would have just been, I think, a little bit easier. But I don't know, man. I see the schedule and I daydream and I hope it comes true. And that's all we can really say right now.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. All right, let's say realistically, lose Virginia Tech, beat Wake at home, lose to Pitt if they're good as people say they are. Could beat UVA 2-2. Could beat Duke 3-2. UNC is always a toss-up 4-2. Is Miami going to be as good as they say they are? Okay, maybe 4-3. FSU at home, usually play them well. New coach, but they're a bit of a mess. They don't have any running backs. Give us a bump on that one. 5-3. Liberty 6-3. At Cuse, toss up 6-4, GT at home 7-4.
It's possible.
It's pretty damn good, I think.
It's certainly possible. And I just think what you need is State just needs it to break the opposite way this year, right? You need the O line to stay healthy. I just need serviceable QB play at this point. You need the wide receivers, running backs to stay healthy. You can't lose Dylan Ottenreith. Like, you can't have 3 DBs go down. And I think if that happens, like, at least early on, if the team is healthy, I think it's a night and day difference last year. I mean,
yeah,
the only thing I could think is, just scheme gelling and, just too much of a learning curve there. Maybe we're very simplistic to start the year on offense. But the more I think about it, like, if they're all healthy, there's all the weapons we kind of needed. And, if the O-line is good, I think the running backs are going to make life easy for the quarterback. And if they start running the quarterbacks more with some actual cohesive strategy, I don't know, man. This is just a really good schedule for us.
So let's get into it, right? I mean, nobody surprisingly asked, but I think we've had that question before: is what are you going to get out of Devin Leary? Yeah. So here's my thought process on probably why I'm a little bit more optimistic than most people. He was a top 10 quarterback in the country coming out of high school.
Yep.
Now, say what you want about ratings and recruiting. They don't usually get those guys that far wrong. Those guys usually become decent college quarterbacks. And just because he had some ups and downs last year as a freshman, I think that's normal. I think you go into the season with some uncertainty, you don't expect to play, and you're third on the depth chart. Now you're in the game, and you have that bit of volatility, but I don't think that speaks to how he can play and how he's going to play. I think he's going to play a lot better. I think he's going to play like a kid who's been around a little bit. He's taken his punches, and I expect more from him. Fair or not, I think he's going to improve, and I think that is where my optimism lies here, that I think most people don't have, because they just look at the numbers and the record and the team last year and say, they're going to be terrible. But I think Leary is going to be better than people are expecting, and that's a good thing. Keep your expectations low, because that's historically not our strong suit.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things that everyone overlooks, right, is chemistry, right? When you're the third string quarterback, you're not throwing with the first string guys or the second string. And so, the focus, I think, off season is, him and Thayer have been trying to build a better connection. He's been working with CJ. You see that even in the videos that the team posted, right? Is, there's a couple thrown right to CJ specifically. I think they're trying to kind of highlight to you what the chemistry is being built there. The other thing too is, like, he was he was third string, and then he was brought in and asked to save the season. Is essentially what happened, right? And by that point, like, no one was going to win. I don't care. I don't think, even if you had Ryan Finley, the team was so decimated on the back end, and all the weapons were hobbled. I think someone said, this might have been in the IPS premium chat the other day, but Zonovan Knight was constantly injured every game. He was just getting nagged. And Person obviously went out. And, so you're sitting there like, you can't even run the ball as much as you really want to, because you've really got Jordan Houston, and that's it. And I think we saw that as the games were going on, right? You'd see one flash from Knight, and then it would go away. So then you take that and you say, okay, well, he still got like 700 yards last year, and that was doubled. What's this kid do when he's healthy? And what's he do when he's healthy and Person is healthy? And so that he can stay fresh and stay, the whole time. That will make life easier for Devin, and not put him in the situation where he's got to come in and try to get 30 plus points. I'm not saying he's incapable of doing that. To me, it's like what you said. He's got clear talent. He was just not ready. Neither was Hockman. And I think the only reason we won the Syracuse game and at least looked a little salvageable with Hockman before he was throwing picks is that he was a coach's kid, and you kind of see it in how he was playing. And maybe he's a guy too that under Beck's tutelage, if it doesn't work out with Leary, maybe that kind of pedigree and having a strong QB coach mentor on the sideline will keep that kind of play in check as well and kind of turn that gunslinger down a little bit. But
yeah, I agree. It's inexperience at a lot of positions there. Yeah. Inexperience at the coaching, who's making those play calls. Right, we had a lot of variables last year that were less than ideal, and I think those changed this year. And if even just a portion of those are improved, then the team is going to be improved. The offense is going to be improved. And you look at guys, stepping away from it. Right, Zonovan's good. Ricky's good. Jordan Houston's good. If they're healthy, they're going to be good. The offensive line's healthy, they're going to be good. But guys like Keon Lassane, right? True freshman comes in, plays a lot. He's still a true freshman. And you give him another year under being in a college program and learning and getting better and developing. I expect big things from him. He's fast as lightning, man. He's really good. And you give those guys more chances to be the man and to be, put the ball in their hands and kind of understand everything. And I expect more from those guys. I think you're going to see a lot better production from, especially from the wide receiver crew, but like individually the younger guys who played, the Keon Lassanes, the Devin Carter, and even Emeka. And I expect him to be better, to be the Emeka that we expected to be. All right, I think all those things, like those guys are all good players. They're all capable of helping us compete with everybody on this schedule. There's nobody on here that says they have superior talent, because I can name a lot of guys that are really good football players and, young and inexperienced. If they've developed in with the time and if they've developed experience and matured and those things that you expect from guys as they go from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3, I think that's going to uplift a lot of things. And I think that gives us a lot better chance than, most people would say.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people. This would probably be the year that he could win Coach of the Year, I guess, if everything just breaks kind of normal. If State does what it used to do, which was kind of go 500 or maybe a game over 500 in the ACC, right? This year, if he can get 5 ACC wins, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about, wow, Dave Doran, what a great job. Way to, right the ship, blah, 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 right? Changes the outlook. And then maybe if we're smart with our media plays, maybe we get this absurd treatment that a certain program down the road does. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm with you. I think actually, to me, this season really comes down to do the bit players like Dylan Ottenreath stay healthy? Because the run game is completely different with him. Does do we have Ike Ekwonu continue to play the way he was? And do you see, I've been kind of hard on Tyrone Riley, or not necessarily hard, just I have very subdued expectations just because he's had to deal with a lot. But, if you get him in there and he's either a swing man as their 6th guy, or Justin Witt takes longer to come back from injury, like that, those are the guys I'm kind of watching, Aleem McNeil, right? Yeah. You can't lose. I don't think you can lose Aleem this year and then have, faith in the defense, because I think we're right on the line, for example.
So, yeah, you mentioned earlier Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech was one of the first guys to decide to opt out of the season. And he won't be the last, and there's been others that have followed him. Caleb Farley, their corner, is going to be a first-round pick and all that jazz. Listening to our guys talk, and this is probably, again, fanboy, but listening to our guys talk, they understand that it's their responsibility to be responsible and to do the right things. And I think that is a testament to the kind of kids that Doran is recruiting, right? He always talks about character, and you listen to these kids talk, and one of the features that the football program put out was the intro to the new kids, right? And they would do a little video asking questions, and I really liked how they held them, they carried themselves, and how they spoke, and how they interacted with the camera, right? And they're real people. And I think that's the character that Doran is trying to build, the whole blue collar, hand in the dirt thing. And you don't get through this level of adversity having a bunch of prima donnas, right? You don't get through it where you've heard from other schools that basically they're not testing, they're not doing these things. They're being cavalier about it, going with the herd immunity goal or whatever. I mean, there's rumors that that's what Carolina's doing, right? Just let them get sick and deal with it. And you haven't heard anything. I was listening to one of the podcasts. I don't remember which one it was, and they basically said, like, the SEC, nobody is talking about it at all. Like, you haven't heard anything from Georgia. You haven't.
Yep.
None of their players have been with the media. You don't know what's happening, right? And I think Doran is doing a good job of being open about it. And I think his kids are the type of kids that are going to be responsible, and they should respond to, this sort of thing, right? Hey, you want to play football? It's on you to do these right things. And I think they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying the right message that, hey, we need to take care of ourselves. We're going to play. We're not trying to opt out. They want to do all these things together. And I really like that. And I think that mentality is what makes a difference in some of these games. You'll see some teams like Miami and Carolina where they don't have those kind of players. Not like this, right? That's not been what their MO has been. And I think that's plays into advantage for State.
Yeah, I think it's a hunger plus blue collar mentality, right? And that is what kept them focused throughout the off season, and trying to do things right. And the reports are all back. That the team is the coaches are pretty happy seeing the condition everyone's in. And of course, there's going to be some guys that, due to no fault of their own, didn't have access to equipment, fields, whatever, to keep in shape as best as they could. Now, you did mention those interviews, and I think it was Tanner Engel, who was talking about Chris Scott. Chris Scott was smiling or something like that, and he was like, basically said, like, boy, you better be eating those French fries. And for those that don't know, Chris Scott is wicked fast, but he is 150 pounds. And, he's not alone in that. We got a couple wide receivers. Jalen Coit is the same, 5'11", 150. Josh Pierre-Lewis is 5'10", 160 as a DB. And I do wonder if some of these guys, I hope Doran is smart and Beck is smart. And one of the things that Baylor used to do all the time was just go out there and put their second, third, or fourth string wide receiver in and just make them run flies down the sideline to try to burn out the defense. And then they put in their number one and let them go against someone that had been semi-gassed. And I wonder if you see that with these smaller guys, is you just basically put them in there and you say, look, just go sideline, go down it. Maybe you break free, get open, and you'll get hit. And then since you're on the sideline, you only get hit from one side. So, but I think you're right. And I don't think it's being a fanboy. You can see the culture of the program in the way the guys talk, the way they act, and also just the buy-in from our staff and everyone around them. I think after going through last year, everyone's got a lot to prove. And, they know they may only have, in reality, you can only have like 3 or 4 games maybe. And they want to go out and try to make some noise. And at the same time, they're trying to avoid any setbacks so that they can get the system installed and they can get these guys up to speed. And I think maybe some of the other programs, maybe where it's a little bit more established, maybe that's why they're kind of cavalier about it. Like I was shocked to see the comments about Virginia Tech, for example. I'm not surprised about UNC, but that's another thing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? The Virginia Tech's best player opts out, and then you start hearing, that there's coaches are pressuring guys to play through it, and and that's not just about them. I've heard the rumors of other coaches doing the same thing, like where guys are afraid to. And this was part of the Pac-12 thing. I think the kids were afraid to come out and say they had symptoms because they didn't want to lose playing time. Their coaches would be mad at them, and like, holy crap, man! Like, how could you let your kid play for somebody like that? And I just to see that, and this is not throwing shade at Carolina, to see the rumors that they're doing the same thing. It's just, it's not surprising, but it's disturbing. It's disturbing to say the least. And, who knows? But I think our guys it appears our guys are handling it better, handling it well. I mean, as good as you can. I think that's part of it. I want to play this clip, right? So James said, Stuart Mandel discuss. All right. So I used to listen to it, and I hadn't really listened lately, but the Audible, which is Bruce Feldman and Stuart Mandel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's awful. It's so bad.
Really?
Stuart Mandel is the driest personality ever. I mean, Feldman knows what he's talking about, but the podcast has no flow. There's just, I can't stand it, man. I've tried again. I listened to the last 2 episodes and I just couldn't take it. I did, however, clip the one interesting part. They last 2 episodes ago, they were talking about the ACC. It was right when the schedule came out. And they had Matt Fortuna on there. So I'm going to play this clip. Let me know what you think about it.
You guys have had a chance to pour over these schedules yet, but I just did a quick look. My first thought in terms of like, hey, did anybody catch a big break, was to say, well, who's not playing Clemson? And the 4 teams not playing Clemson are Duke, Louisville, UNC, which seems significant to me since a lot of people think they're going to be pretty good, and NC State. Only one of those 4 is not playing either Clemson or Notre Dame, and that is NC State. Does this mean this is going to be Dave Doran's year? All the cards are playing right for him.
Well, he's got 3 contract extensions. He's been on the hot seat at least 4 times. So I think something has to give right here. That's an interesting question. I mean, NC State, and this is my personal theory, and I've shared this probably with you guys before off air and others. To me, that place is a sleeping giant. I know they've recruited pretty well there, but you go to a game day environment. I was there for a Thursday night game against Syracuse last year. 2 teams that were terrible and didn't make a bowl game. And it's an SEC environment. I mean, they sell 44,000 season tickets a year without even lifting a finger. They just have this natural, crazy, rabid fan base that is just dying for a winner there. And you've got more than enough kids, I think, in state who are talented enough to make that place a really good football program. So as good as Dave Doran has done relative to the history of that place, I look at that place and I say, why can't they be what Virginia Tech was, under some of Frank Beamer's better years? I see no reason why that can't happen. And I say that obviously with the understanding that there's a natural affinity in that state for everyone who grew up to bleed Carolina blue, if you will. And Mac Brown has tapped into that passion better than probably anyone in just a year and a half there. And he's really cleaning up on the recruiting trail. But I think it's put up or shut up time for Dave Doran and his staff, given the fact that they have a new athletic director there too, who may not be as beholden to him as Debbie Yao was before Boo Corrigan got there.
Well, it is exciting that feel like we're talking about actual football stuff.
All right. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's what we've been saying all along, right?
He called us the sleeping giant. For once, somebody called us the sleeping giant.
Maybe I've just heard him say it before, elsewhere. It's been mentioned, right? And a lot of people, anyone that's come and seen either like an FSU Thursday night type game or any night atmosphere game in particular at NC State, always comes away saying, "Holy shit, that fan base is crazy and rabid." And why are they not cleaning up more?
Yeah.
And I think he hit on it, right? The kind of absurd impact that UNC basketball seems to have is, it just really heavily influences a lot of these kids. And, maybe I kind of said this before a few podcasts back. when State has kind of like a salesman, like a showman, it seems like we get those guys, or at least early on, right? Chuck flamed out, but that's for many other reasons. Look at Valvano, right? Like when we have like gregarious, fun personalities, we tend to do better. And I wonder, I love the blue collar mentality. It's, it speaks to me as a person. Like, don't get me wrong. But I do wonder if, like he said, I'm not going to hold this year against him because obviously you're recovering from last year and getting everyone settled. But if next year, if this team is floating around 500 again, I mean, see you later. I really like Dave, but we are wasting away in mediocrity. And, it was nice for him not to take a dump on us like the first, he could have been like, there's a reason they're not playing those guys because they suck. And I'm glad he hopped onto it.
Yeah, Stuart Mandel has never had a whole lot of nice things to say about NC State for whatever reason. It feels like somebody has pooped in his cereal one too many times when he's coming to Raleigh or something. I don't know. Because after this podcast, right, and they talked about a little bit more about the ACC, and we got thrown in there a few more times. The very next day, he posts a strength of schedule, or who's got the easiest schedule, and he had us as the easiest schedule. Also in that article, he said, "Here's the predicted order of finish," and he had us dead last.
That's right.
He just. All those things, like he just had somebody say, "Hey, they're gonna be okay."
He had us with one win.
Just said
right?
Had the easiest schedule, yeah, and then he said they're gonna win one game. Like clearly, he didn't do his homework there, and clearly he's got some sort of vengeance against us. But
or there's a lot of people that look. It is easy if you don't do any research on the program from last year, right? To just pull up the stats and say, good God, when you look at the quarterback play, right? And then, you don't see any explosive plays. You see bad scoring. You see a defense that's giving up everything. And if you don't go through it and be like, okay, well, every key, veteran contributor basically went down last year, and they had no plan at quarterback, right? I mean, I'm still on the Matt McKay train. I still think if you had rolled with Matt McKay throughout the season, you would have had, I'm saying it right now, we would have had 2 wins. I'm telling you, we aren't losing to Georgia Tech with Matt McKay. I'm just saying it right now. That's just how I feel. However, if Devin Leary is the guy going forward, then fine. Like you put him through hell. He's going to be ready. If I don't have his percentages in front of me, right? But even if he just creeps up into the low, 60s in completion percentage, right? That translates to so much more productivity and reliability, right? And I think these guys just look at it and they're just like, well, yeah, if the quarterback is as bad as last year, then no, we aren't going to win many games. So that's fair. But I'm guessing in his article he didn't give any nuance to that. He probably
certainly not. And you look at the guys who have evaluated the quarterbacks in the leagues, and there's 2 different sets of people. There's the Taj Boyds, and I forgot who the other one was. It's another former quarterback, and they're like, we watched the film on him. This kid can play. He made some mistakes. He'll get better. All these things, like positive things to say about him. And then you have the Mandels, and then somebody else who'd put out a list of the top returning quarterbacks in the league, and they had the freaking walk-on from BC ahead of him. Like, give me a break. The kid's not even going to start now, but that's a different story. But they just, again, like you said, they're not doing any homework. They look at the numbers, the schedule, the name on the jersey, and like, whatever, and move on. But yeah, I think it was interesting to see what Matt Fortuna had to say. Because, earlier on that podcast, Mandel was just going on about how Fortuna knows more about the ACC than anybody. And then, he drops that on them and it's like, whatever, you still suck. Go to hell, man. Go to hell.
I mean, here's how I'll know if someone is actually educated. If they bring up Vi Jones, then I'm like, okay, here we go. This guy's paying attention. Now,
yeah,
I think from the practice info that they were able to glean, I think someone said Vi Jones is right now on the second string. I'm telling you, I feel like by the end of the year, that guy's going to be the sneaky playmaker. I wonder if, with the 3 down front, do they bring him in on pass rush kind of things because of his athleticism and have him like walk up on the line? I think he's going to be the guy that people will go, we weren't talking about this guy, but they're talking about him by the end of the year.
Yeah, so I think I don't remember which article or where the conversation was happening, where the biggest question mark is where they're going to get pressure on the quarterback from. And when you go with a 3 down front, it's coming from your linebackers. And so you can see a situation where you have Vi Jones and Peyton Wilson putting pressure on the linebackers, or some of these other guys. I think Vi Jones is probably on the second team at the moment, just out of seniority.
Yeah,
if I had to take a guess. It's obviously early in practice, and I think you'll see that change. And I imagine they're going to rotate probably 6 linebackers at least. A lot of those guys are going to get some PT, and those guys are going to be the ones counted on to get the pressure.
Yeah,
you're going to count on Aleem to be, a space filler and a body eater, and you're going to count on your linebackers to get through those gaps and put the pressure on the quarterback. And that article, the Miami article today, made a good point. It's like it's a bit of boom or bust when you run a 3-3-5 and putting pressure on them, but it works. And you've seen teams that made it work. Like Baylor last year had a really good defense, and they made it work. And what you're trying to do is, you're trying to put pressure on these teams to make them make mistakes, because you're not going to hold teams to 10-point games anymore. It just doesn't happen.
Well,
there's too much. Well. There's too many good teams out there, too many good players out there, too many good offenses playing fast that, you need to force teams to make mistakes. And I think that's Gibson's philosophy. And I think that's what you're going to see. And I'm with you. I expect Vi Jones to see the field. And I expect those linebackers to be a huge part of it, a huge strength of this defense, because they're going to need to be. Certainly going to need to be. The other story from today, a lot happened actually just today. The schedule came out, and everybody saw Liberty was on it, myself included. And the reaction was, why the hell are you playing Liberty? Right. The last thing I heard about Liberty was in April, when they sent their kids back to school, and during like the height of this thing, and everybody's freaking out. Like, why? How could you do that just to get tuition dollars? Which is what they claimed it was about.
It's a curse word.
Now, yeah. So now it is. They reported that nobody had any cases. I don't believe anything from a Hugh Freeze-led organization.
Yep.
But that whole university said, yeah, we didn't have any cases, so we're the model of whatever. The real reason we're playing them is what it comes out to be, is that if we didn't play them, we'd owe them $2 million. We're contractually obligated to them. Okay, whatever, play them. I get it now.
Wonder why.
But my reaction was the same as everybody else's. Like, man, that is the one school I want to distance myself from, when you have a lot of other options in state to play that same game.
And not just that. I mean, it's a culture thing. And, like, I'm trying to dodge gently around this, but there's a reason there's literally articles out there about their black athletes are leaving that school. And, right. I think in a time like this, maybe Boo and those guys did try to do everything they could to get out of those contracts. I don't know why Yao would have written such $2 million. The Ball State game last year, I think, was under $1 million. Our payout to them.
Yeah, $950.
Now maybe our payout to them. I didn't read JG's article too closely. Is the payout to them $2 million, or is the termination penalty $2 million? Termination
would have been $2 million. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I was like, I don't understand why we are paying this school that much. You cannot. You hit the nail on the head, man. Hugh Freeze and just the general leadership of that school is a cesspool. And I know there's going to be some people out there that are going to interpret that the wrong way and think I am making a statement about something else in broad strokes. I'm not. This is hyper targeted to these guys. If it was a different Christian school, I would not care. I do not care about that. Yeah. It is in Virginia. First off, you don't even meet anyone from Liberty for a lot of reasons, but it's just in Virginia. It was such a black eye early on what they were trying to do just to get tuition, and it's just, I think, turned everyone off in this state in general from them. So
Hugh Freeze is a known dirtbag, so you're justified in that. And he's been in trouble before. It
is well documented.
The hookers and everything else. It's well documented, yeah. So, but there is an explanation. Mm-hmm. So, I get it now. My reaction was probably still the same, I think, but it wouldn't have been the highest priority team to play when you have other options. I would rather play Charlotte or somebody else. And,
Campbell, they're just down the road,
Right, Campbell, it's a short bus ride.
Yeah, I would have really. It actually would have been nice to figure out a way to throw a bone to a Charlotte. No, I don't want to play Upstate. I know people are like, "What about Upstate?" Nope, I don't want to. I don't want to actually have a legitimate put it in ink L on the table. So yeah, let's Liberty. Let's move on. I'm getting too.
Yeah. All right. So I'll leave this one for you. Pack Recruiting asks, what is your guys' overall thought on how the 2021 football recruiting class is going? How do you guys, and then schedule and Dave's presser today? I actually missed Dave's presser today, but I have a comment on this one yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there was
recruiting.
One. Was there another presser today? Sorry, before we get into recruiting.
Oh, yeah, that was yesterday. I asked that question yesterday.
Yeah. All right. August 4th. Okay. So I think recruiting.
Recruiting rundown.
Yeah, recruiting is growing. I mean, great. As where were we a couple months ago, and where are we now? The scuttlebutt is that Jordan Poole is supposed to be making a decision in supposedly the next 48 hours. Now, you can't take that to the bank because he's canceled that decision 3 times now. But I do think if you come out ahead and win this with Jordan Poole, I think it's another surge. You get another 4-star guy. I don't think Jordan Poole per se impacts like Moogerbill or Reeves, maybe a Reeves. So I don't think like, okay, we're going to have an Aaron McLaughlin type moment where we have like 7 or 8 guys basically, just roll in after they see one bell cow kind of come in. But from a state perspective, landing him validates a lot of the work that's going on that they've been doing on the recruiting trail. It's just another further sign that players are comfortable here. So yeah, from that perspective, I think things are going pretty great. We'll see how it rolls out. Moogerbill, for example, a lot of people really like him, but he's out in the western part of the state. There's a lot of SEC influences out there. You can go look through Twitter and see all the official offers that went out recently. And I don't believe he got one from Georgia, which was what most people think is like Georgia can show up 5 seconds before he hits send on the fax and they'll get the sign. So if you do land a Moogerbill, you're going to be worrying about that. I don't think if you land a Poole, you're going to be worried about that. But I just don't. 2 or 3 months ago, I was like, dude, we're just gonna have a horrible, horrible class, and everything was going wrong. It felt like, and you see UNC cranking it out. Now you see UNC getting its player flipped by Georgia recently, and I just think that's a sign to come. I think you're going to see a lot of like the blue chip programs start coming in and start pilfering. And it's the classes like UNC's that seems like it's built on Flash that is most likely, I think, to get impacted by that. I think most of the guys that have committed to state and formed the backbone of this class, and there's a lot of good players. I just don't get that feel that we have to be worried about threats. You see articles from parents giving their perspectives, and you've got guys that were legacy recruits for Florida State and things like that are comfortable. We're comfortable committing to us and adamant that they were shutting it down afterwards. So yes, I don't know how much more I need to vamp.
Well, I think it's going good. I think to me, the things that stand out are, and we've talked about this recently, the average class rating is really good.
Yeah.
It's top 5 in the league. I'm not sure what it is at the moment, but it's somewhere on the top 5 in the league. And overall, they're about 30th in the country. Now, if you look at an entirely new staff coming off of a 4-8 season, like that's pretty damn impressive. And so the class they're putting together has some really good players in it. And I think, part of that is the depth in the state, but part of that is also, there's a bigger thing going on here than just a flash in the pan. Like, I think these kids believe in the type of program. Like you said, the parents and the kids who've come in and then they have the interviews are all like, yeah, it feels like home. Like, I feel good sending my kid there. And as a parent, that, like, I can only put myself in those shoes, but that's how I would feel with my boys. Like, if they were in this position, like, I want them to go somewhere where I trust the people that are going to be their coaches and believe that, it's an environment that's going to mimic the home environment. And that's what you see about these kids. And I think you don't have to land all the highly rated kids, but you're landing enough of them. They're landing more than I would have expected. So, I'm satisfied with it. And I don't know how many spots there have left. Was like 6 or 7 spots left, maybe. And, there's quite a few 4-star guys out there that we feel pretty good about. And, this class could end up really good for, especially considering all the circumstances.
Yeah. Now I will say this, in order to get a top 30 type ranking, or especially to break through the 30s, they've got to land Poole. They've got to get Mugerbill. They've probably got to get like another guy. Just historically, I kind of went back the last few years and looked at it. You have to have just a certain amount of 4-star guys to even be trending there. And that doesn't mean if you end up being number 35, you're bad. I mean, right now we're 37th in the nation and we're 9th in the ACC according to 24/7. Like, this is also just a year where the ACC seems to be stacking out hard. I don't know if that's just because guys have a lot of commits. I mean, the North Carolina story is easy to point out, right? But Louisville's got 22 commits, and they're 4th in the conference right now. Even Pitt, Virginia, everyone's. I wonder how we compare to the other conferences now that I think about it. Like, is the ACC just doing a better job of landing these guys in COVID? Is it, it's not normal to see Georgia Tech and Virginia and Pittsburgh ranked where they are. I think Pittsburgh right now, for example, is 31st. Like, that's unexpected.
Yeah. New coaching staffs and Georgia Tech and Louisville, second year bump, those sorts of things. Deep class in the state of North Carolina, which is one of the biggest feeders for the conference. There's a lot of things there, and you look at the numbers, and it's the ranking is not great, but again, look at the average ranking per player in their top 5, and I think that's the stat that I'm going to lean into because that's what I want to lean into. The Dave Doran press conference, people got all up in a tizzy about his reaction. Like, I honestly didn't even see why they were upset, other than it's 2020 and people just find things to be upset about. Everything needs more context. So if somebody's going to clip a one-piece audio where, he says he's more concerned about heat exhaustion, like,
it was a question about heat exhaustion first.
Yeah. It's, again, people are just being. State has done nothing wrong through all this, right? That Doran's telling these guys the right things. Safety is paramount. They're taking all the precautions. For anybody who's trying to place an ulterior motive on, maybe Doran's a bad guy. Maybe he's not doing this. Like, come on, man, just get real. It's a lazy attempt at clicks and attention. And I don't even know where that came from or who started it, but it's stupid. And I gave it about as much thought as that. Like, it's ridiculous, because if there's anybody who I believe is going to do the right thing, it's Dave Doran. Like, he's not taking shortcuts. If we took shortcuts, we probably wouldn't gone 4-8 last year.
You aren't even allowed a laptop on the sidelines with Dave Doran.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah. I think it's ridiculous. So that's my thought on Dave's presser. But people are stupid.
Here's the thing. I didn't even know there was outrage or scandal or anything, right? Like, I scroll through my Twitter feed kind of throughout the day, in between calls, and I didn't see anything. It wasn't until the next day that I was reading the transcript, And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize COVID and heat exhaustion had very similar symptoms. And I thought his answer was perfectly fine. And in fact, actually, I thought his answer was great in that he was like, listen, I'm not trying to say that this is is not a big deal, but I can point out, I'm sure a lot of college coaches can rifle off names of people who have died from heat exhaustion playing football in the summertime in the South. It's something that they're all extremely aware of. And it is far more likely that someone is going to die from that or have a catastrophic event during practice than from COVID right now. It's just how the numbers play out. And it was so weird because I decided to track down like where this whole, I don't even know what to call it, came from. And I saw the tweet and I was like, okay, well, the first tweet is so obviously gotcha. Like it's just clickbait. And then the guy like posted right below it. He was like, well, for more context, the question was about heat exhaustion and COVID having similar symptoms. And then he like posted like the full like 2 minutes of dialogue about it, like with his question and the answer. And I was just like, fuck you. And I'm sorry. Listen, yeah. I'm sorry. But when I saw that, I was just like, unbelievable. And then someone was like, well, Feinbaum got on it and blah, 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 and Bleacher Report. And then I sat there and I was like, Bleacher Report still exists? Like, I was like, it's such a nothing burger. And I was like, in 48 hours, no one's even going to talk about this. And it probably wasn't even 24. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ugh. It was ridiculous. It really was ridiculous. And it's just, I can only imagine how many times is Dave Doeren going to have to answer the COVID questions. Like, yes, we're doing everything possible. Like, these guys just want to get back to some bit of normalcy. Right. And so, he's repeatedly answered the same question over and over and over and over and over again. And if that were me, I'd be like, listen, guys, can we talk about something else? Right. And it was, again, completely out of context. It was classic 2020, if you will.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Mahesh, welcome back. Wanted to update you last spot. Interviews went well. Good to hear. Hopefully you should hear from school soon. That'd be awesome, man. We're pulling for you big time. He has 2 questions. What is the most important football recruit left on the board at this point? What do you think about
that? I would say I would say Mooger Bill. And not that I think we have to get him. I just think that if you land him and you can keep him the entire cycle, I just think it shows a lot about the staff and Garrison, and it would send a signal, I think, out there. It's kind of like Poole. I don't think he necessarily makes anyone else commit, but if you do get a Poole, if you do get him, if you do get a Zion Reeves, then there's those last few guys that you've kind of been in the fringe with, or that you're trying to flip. There's a few guys that are definitely on flip watch. And I think that's the impact one of those guys has. It's just like if 2 4-stars just pop for you in short order, that's what I'd say. So, and just that, Coughlin survives COVID.
I'd say Mooger Bill too. Mooger Bill, mainly because we have some depth at linebacker. As much as people like Poole and how he's, even underrated given his ranking, still really high.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a need for a defensive end, pass rusher, those sorts of things. I think when you have an elite offensive lineman in your state, now granted he's 6 hours away or whatever, so he's more in SEC country, as most people have pointed out, but he's an elite offensive lineman in your state, and if you can land him, I think he's the most important. Mahesh also asked a basketball question, which you can actually jump on because I think we're done with football, but what type of impact will DJ have on our team after coming back? It's so hard to quantify that. Yeah. He's super important, right? He's not a guy that's going to give you 30 and 10, right? He's not that, but he is a tough matchup for teams. I think he's got a good stroke. I don't want to see him shoot too many threes, but he can stretch the floor a little bit, makes it harder for bigs to guard him, makes some room for Manny in the paint, make some room for some of our guys to get some shots off. I think his versatility is what's the most important. And having him come back, being a senior, being just consistent. Like, he was one of the most consistent players at the end of last year. You just can't understate how important that is to have him back.
I think he, at least in the videos, he looks a lot more comfortable shooting that from deep. And I mean, I just think it's obvious he's going to make everything go. That's how I feel. Right. And he is going to be, if you've got Devin Daniels having to run the point more, I think Devin Daniels is going to be comfortable knowing he's got DJ out there. And likewise, I think that same goes for the freshmen. So I'm annoyed. I guess I'm kind of annoyed it took this long, but at the same time, like, usually the history goes the other way for us, right? Where a guy just pops over to Europe. And this might be one of those times too, where because of everything that's been happening over in Greece and in Europe with COVID, it probably did worry a guy like Devin Daniels, who probably could have popped and gone over and played there. So yeah, I just don't want to get too excited about basketball or anything right now, because I just want to make it through September and see football.
Yeah, I really want some football.
Yeah.
I did have a note here that this conversation randomly popped up, and you mentioned Devin Daniels running the point. Braxton Beverly's going to run the point. As much as people don't want to hear it, Beverly can. I still think Beverly can play. I think he had a bad year shooting the ball, but
he had a bad.
Keats loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keats loves him. He's a senior. He can handle it. He's not going to be your prototypical point guard, but he's going to be the point. He's going to start his point. People need to come to Jesus with that. That's going to happen. And so yeah, I wanted to point that out. The last question I have for you, and this is my question: is TJ Warren the greatest bucket maker of all time?
Are you asking me this?
Yeah.
Oh, 100p. I can't remember if you said it or someone else did, but it was like, someone was like, well, where's this been all this time or whatever? And it's like, well, he's always been on a squad that had someone just sucking up shots. And, everything he's doing is so impressive, and he's not doing it with free throws, which to me is even more impressive. He's not doing who am I thinking of? What, Baron Davis? Is that who it does? No. Yes. Who's the guy?
It always makes you think of Tyler Hansbrough.
Oh, yes.
Because all he would do is hit 20 free throws a game and would try to be.
Hey, man, got a good career out of that. Got his mom a job. So.
Yeah. TJ Warren, his points this year: 16, 32, 34, 53, 22. And he had 30. Oh, these are going back farther. So yeah, so he opened the year 53 at 34, 34, and 16. And he hit that 53 with four free throws. Classic Wolfpacker. Gets to the line 4 times. Scores 53 and gets to the line 4 times. How is that possible?
It's because he's got that old man game, right? Like, he shoots off balance. It's just fun to watch. And I have a couple friends out in Indiana and in Indianapolis in particular, and so I was like, of course, like, TJ Warren's popping off and would be the most exciting to ever see him play, and you guys are having to watch him, I guess, on Zoom chat.
Yeah. So if I haven't caught as many of the games as I would like, because I like to watch him play. So if anybody is watching and it's on TV, please let me know, because I would like to watch. And I don't follow the NBA close enough, but I would definitely watch his games. So yeah, that was my last question. That's all I got. We already touched on Devin Leary. Will Perkins asked, how's he gonna be? I still have faith in him. Yeah, I have faith in him too. I think he's gonna be fine. And that's it. You got anything else?
No, just everyone stay safe.
Yeah, let's get some football, man. This freaking place needs football really bad, and I hope they can do it keeping everybody safe. Like, I expect us to get 6 games in. That's my expectation, and I would be happy with that. I mean, 6 games in would be much better than nothing. We need that distraction.
I feel like here's the thing. I feel like if we can get through the first month, it's just happening. Like, they're just gonna grind it, and I'd be more concerned if they keep backing up the start date. So
yeah,
but we'll see, man. I mean, it's serious and it's scary for these guys, and I'm sure there's all what I'm curious about is like what's their liability in particular.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's stop talking.
Yeah, we're stop talking. We will probably record again soon as there's more things happening around the sports, and we like the sports. So, thanks for listening as always, and catch you next time. Go Pack.
Go Pack.